Hello, my friends. It's April 1st, 2021. In many places, this is known as April Fool's Day. And I thought I'd make you a short video that you could use. You can listen to this. You could fall asleep to it. You can think you knew what an NLE was before you watch this video. And by the end, you probably won't. So check it out. Enjoy your sleepy time or your nap or whatever you're taking. And let's go over to Wikipedia and see what they have to say about what an NLE is. Let's begin. Non-linear editing. Non-linear editing is a form of offline editing for audio, video, and image editing. In offline editing, the original content is not modified in the course of editing. In non-linear editing, edits are specified and modified by specialized software. A pointer-based playlist, effectively an edit decision list, EDL, for video and audio, or a directed acyclic graph for still images is used to keep track of edits. Each time the edited audio, video, or image is rendered, played back, or accessed, it is reconstructed from the original source and the specified editing steps. Although this process is more computationally intensive than directly modifying the original content, changing the edits themselves can be almost instantaneously, and it prevents further generation loss as the audio, video, or image is edited. A non-linear editing system, NLE, is a video, NLVE, editing program or application, or an audio editing, NLAE, digital audio workstation, DAW system. These perform non-destructive editing on source material. The name is in contrast to 20th century methods of linear video editing and film editing. Basic techniques. A non-linear editing approach may be used when all assets are available as files on video servers or on local solid-state drives or hard disks rather than recordings on reels or tapes. While linear editing is tied to the need to sequentially view film or hear tape, non-linear editing enables direct access to any video frame in the digital video clip without having to play or scrub/shuttle through adjacent footage to reach it, as is necessary with videotape linear editing systems. When ingesting audio or video feeds, metadata are attached to the clip. Those metadata can be attached automatically, timecode, localization, take number, name of clip, or manually, player's name, characters, in sports. It is then possible to access any frame by entering directly the timecode or the descriptive metadata. An editor can, for example, at the end of the day in the Olympic Games, easily retrieve all the clips related to the players who received a gold medal. The non-linear editing method is similar in concept to the cut and paste techniques used in IT. What? However, with the use of non-linear editing systems, the destructive act of cutting of film negatives is eliminated. It can also be viewed as the audio-video equivalent of word processing, which is why it is called desktop video editing in the consumer space. Broadcast workflows and advantages. In broadcasting applications, video and audio data are first captured to hard disk-based systems or other digital storage devices. The data are then imported into servers employing any necessary transcoding, digitizing, or transfer. Once imported, the source material can be edited on a computer using any wide range of video editing software. The end product of the offline non-linear editing process is a frame-accurate edit decision list, EDL, which can be taken, together with the source tapes, to an online quality tape or film editing suite. The EDL is then read into an edit controller and used to create a replica of the offline edit by playing portions of the source tapes back at full quality and recording them to a master as per the exact edit points of the EDL. Editing software records the editor's decisions in an EDL that is exportable to other editing tools. Many generations and variations of the EDL can exist without storing many different copies, allowing for very flexible editing. It also makes it easy to change cuts and undo previous decisions simply by editing the EDL, without having to have the actual film data duplicated. Generation loss is also controlled due to not having to repeatedly re-encode the data when different effects are implied. Generation loss can still occur in digital video or audio when using lossy video or audio compression algorithms, as these introduce artifacts into the source material with each encoding or re-encoding. Lossy compression algorithms, codecs, such as Apple ProRes, Advanced Video Coding, and MP3, are very widely used as they allow for dramatic reductions on file size, while often being indistinguishable from the uncompressed or losslessly compressed original. Compared to the linear method of tape-to-tape editing, non-linear editing offers the flexibility of film editing with random access and easy project organization. In non-linear editing, the original source files are not lost or modified during editing. This is one of the biggest advantages of non-linear editing compared to linear editing. With the EDLs, the editor can work on low-resolution copies of the video. This makes it possible to edit both standard definition broadcast quality and high definition broadcast quality very quickly on desktop computers that may not have the power to process huge, full quality, high resolution data in real time. The costs of editing systems have dropped such that non-linear editing tools are now within the reach of home users. Some editing software can now be accessed free as web applications. Some, like Cinelera, focused on the professional market, and Blender, can be downloaded as free software, and some, like Microsoft Windows Movie Maker or Apple Inc.'s iMovie, come included with the appropriate operating system. Accessing the material. Non-linear editing retrieves video media for editing. Because these media exist on the video server or other mass storage that stores the video feeds in a given codec, the editing system can use several methods to access the material. Direct access. The video server records feeds with a codec readable by the editing system, has network connection to the editor, and allows direct editing. The editor previews material directly on the server, which it sees as remote storage, and edits directly on the server without transcoding or transfer. Shared storage. The video server transfers feeds to and from shared storage that is accessible by all editors. Media in the appropriate codec on the server need only transferred. If recorded with a different codec, media must be transcoded during transfer. In some cases, depending on material, files on shared storage can be edited even before the transfer is finished. Importing. The editor downloads the material and edits it locally. This method can be used with the previous methods. Editor brands. As of January 2019, DaVinci Resolve had a user base of more than 2 million using the free version alone. This is a comparable user base to Apple's Final Cut Pro X, which also had 2 million users as of April 2017. This is in comparison to 2011, when reports indicated Avid's Media Composer is still the most used NLE on primetime TV productions, being employed on up to 90% of evening broadcast shows. Globally, the positioning and popularity of once common video editing platforms has changed as more NLEs exist. Some notable NLEs are Avid Media Composer, Adobe Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro X and its predecessor, Final Cut Pro 7, Vegas Pro. Home use. Early consumer applications using a multimedia computer for non-linear editing of video may have a video capture card to capture analog video or a FireWire connection to capture digital video from a DV camera with its video editing software. Various editing tasks could then be performed on the imported video before export to another medium or MPEG encoded for transfer to a DVD. Modern web-based editing systems can take video directly from a camera phone over a GPRS or 3G mobile connection, and editing can take place through a web browser interface, so, strictly speaking, a computer for video editing does not require any installed hardware or software beyond a web browser and an internet connection. History. When videotapes were first developed in the 1950s, the only way to edit was to physically cut the tape with a razor blade and splice segments together. While the footage excised in this process was not technically destroyed, continuity was lost and the footage was generally discarded. In 1963, with the introduction of the Ampex Editech, videotape could be edited electronically with a process known as linear video editing by selectively copying the original footage to another tape called a master. The original recordings are not destroyed or altered in this process. However, since the final product is a copy of the original, there is a generation loss of quality. First, non-linear editor. The first truly non-linear editor, the CMX 600, was introduced in 1971 by CMX Systems, a joint venture between CBS and Memorex. It recorded and played back black and white analog video recorded in skip field mode, quote unquote, on modified disk pass drives the size of a washing machines. These were commonly used to store about half an hour of data digitally on mainframe computers of the time. The 600 had a console with two monitors built in. The right monitor, which played the preview video, was used by the editor to make cuts and edit decisions using a light pen. The editor selected from options superimposed as text over the preview video. The left monitor was used to display the edited video. A DEC PDP-11 computer served as a controller for the whole system. Because the video edited on the 600 was in low-resolution black and white, the 600 was suitable only for offline editing. The 1980s. Non-linear editing systems were built in the 1980s using computers coordinating multiple laser discs or banks of VCRs. One example of these tape and disc-based systems was Lucasfilm's Edit-Droid, which used several laser discs of the same raw footage to simulate random access editing. Edit-Droid was demonstrated at NAB in 1984. Edit-Droid was first system to introduce modern concepts in non-linear editing, such as timeline editing and clip bins. The LA-based Post House Laser Edit also had an in-house system using recordable random access laser discs. The most popular non-linear system in the 1980s was Ediflex, which used a bank Sony JVC VCRs for offline editing. Ediflex was introduced in 1983 on the Universal series Still the Beaver. By 1985, it was used on over 80% of filmed network programs. In 1985, Ediflex maker Synedco was awarded the Technical Emmy for design and implementation of non-linear editing for filmed programs. In 1984, Montage Picture Processor was demonstrated at NAB. Montage used 17 identical copies of a set of film rushes on modified consumer Betamax VCRs. A custom circuit board was added to each deck that enabled frame-accurate switching and playback using vertical interval timecode. Intelligent positioning and sequencing of the source tracks provided a simulation of random access playback of a lengthily edited sequence without any recording. The theory was that with so many copies of the rushes, there could always be one machine queued up to replay the next shot in real time. Changing the EDL could be done easily, and the results seen immediately. The first feature edited on the Montage was Sidney Lumet's Power. Notably, Francis Coppola edited The Godfather Part 3 on the system, and Stanley Kubrick used it for Full Metal Jacket. It was used on several episodic TV shows, Knots Landing for one, and on hundreds of commercials and music videos. The original montage system won an Academy Award for Technical Achievement in 1988. Montage was reincarnated as Montage 2 in 1987, and Montage 3 appeared at NAB in 1991 using digital disc technology, which had proved to be considerably less cumbersome than the Betamax system. All of these original systems were slow, cumbersome, and had problems with the limited computing horsepower of the time, but the mid to late 1980s saw a trend towards non-linear editing, moving away from film editing on moviolas and the linear videotape method using U-matic VCRs. Computer processing advanced sufficiently by the end of the 80s to enable true digital imagery and has progressed today to provide this capability in personal desktop computers. An example of computing power progressing to make non-linear editing possible was demonstrated in the first all-digital non-linear editing system, the quote, Harry Effects compositing system manufactured by Quantel in 1985. Although it was more of a video effects system, it had some non-linear editing capabilities. Most importantly, it could record and apply effects to 80 seconds due to hard disk space limitations of broadcast quality uncompressed digital video encoded in 8-bit CCIR 601 format on its built-in hard disk array. The 1990s. The term non-linear editing was formalized in 1991 with the publication of Michael Rubin's Non-Linear, a guide to digital film and video editing, Triad, 1991, which popularized this terminology over other terminology common at the time, including real-time editing, random access or RA editing, virtual editing, electronic film editing, and so on. Non-linear editing with computers, as it is known today, was first introduced by Editing Machines Corp. In 1989 with the EMC2 editor, a PC-based non-linear offline editing system that utilized magneto-optical discs for storage and playback of video, using half-screen resolution video at 15 frames per second. A couple of weeks later that same year, Avid introduced the Avid 1. The first in the line of their media composer systems. It was based on the Apple Macintosh computer platform. Macintosh 2 systems were used, with special hardware and software developed and installed by Avid. The video quality of Avid 1, and later media composer systems from the late 1980s, was somewhat low, about VHS quality, due to the use of a very early version of a motion JPEG MJPEG codec. It was sufficient, however, to provide a versatile system for offline editing. Lost in Yonkers, 1993, was the first film edited with Avid Media Composer, and the first long-form documentary so edited was the HBO program Earth and the American Dream, which won a National Primetime Emmy Award for editing in 1993. The new tech Video Toaster Flyer for the Amiga included non-linear editing capabilities in addition to processing live video signals. The Flyer used hard drives to store video clips and audio and supported complex scripted playback. The Flyer provided simultaneous dual-channel playback, which let the toaster's video switcher perform transitions and other effects on video clips without additional rendering. The Flyer portion of the Video Toaster/Flyer combination was a complete computer of its own, having its own microprocessor and embedded software. Its hardware included 3 embedded SCSI controllers. 2 of these SCSI buses were used to store video data, and the third to store audio. The Flyer used a proprietary wavelet compression algorithm known as VTASC, which was well regarded at the time for offering better visual quality than comparable non-linear editing systems using motion JPEG. Until 1993, the Avid Media Composer was most often used for editing commercials or other small content and high-value projects. This was primarily because the purchase cost of the system was very high, especially in comparison to the offline tape-based systems that were then in general use. Hard disk storage was also expensive enough to be a limiting factor on the quality of the footage that most editors could work with or the amount of material that could be held digitized at any one time. And we go on, blah, 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 blah. And then we talk about DV. Another leap came in the late 1990, HD in the early 2000s of highly compressed, the cloud demands of video editing in terms of the volumes of data involved means the proximity of the footage being in 4K as of 2014. 4K video in NLE is fairly new, but is being used in the creation of memory movies throughout the world. 8K as of 2019. 8K video is a relatively new, and 8K video editing techniques require advanced hardware and software capable of handling 8K video. Image editing. For image software, early works such as HSC Software's Live Picture, but non-destructive editing to the professional market quality. At one time, a primary concern with non-linear editing had been picture and sound quality. Storage limitations at the time required that all the material undergo lossy compression techniques to reduce the amount of memory occupied. Improvements in the compression techniques and disk storage capacity have mitigated these concerns, and the migration to high-definition video and audio has virtually removed this concern completely. Most professional NLEs are also able to edit uncompressed video with the appropriate hardware. See also hard disk recorder, list of video topics, version control, notes, blah, 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 references, I hope you now understand what an NLE is after going through all that. You should be able to watch this about 15 times, write everything down, maybe run it at 2 times speed or half speed, and then you'll be able to take a test and regurgitate all this out and probably pass something and still not know what you're doing. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. By the way, happy April Fool's Day, and we'll see you next time.